don't know just if it's me or what's going on. See, these got their pictures, and then this is supposed to be right here.
Right.
We can see, we can hear you there, Joy.
Okay, well, I'm trying to figure out technology.
No worries.
How do I mute it now again?
That's a great question.
There should be a mute button there on your screen, possibly in the lower left, if you move your mouse down to the lower left.
Well, we did have it a minute ago and disappeared. That's what.
Are you on a PC or a iPad?
On an iPad, I believe.
Yeah, it's an iPad.
Yeah, it should be down there in the bottom left.
Mine's in the upper right on my
There we-
iPad.
Oh, there we go. Hey, we got the video working too. All right. Looks like we've got everybody. Is a councilmember from Palm Desert on? I'm not seeing Councilmember Harnick yet.
We could start with the roll call. That might take some time.
All right. All right, everybody, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll go ahead and get started with the roll call.
Hey, District 1,
District 1 is here.
District 2, District 3,
Here.
District 4, District 5, Banning, Beaumont,
Here.
Blythe,
Here.
Calamasa,
Here.
Canyon Lake,
Here.
Cathedral City,
Here.
Coachella, Corona,
Present.
Desert Hot Springs, Eastville,
Present.
Hemet,
Present.
Indian Wells,
Present.
Indio,
Here.
Harupa Valley,
Here.
La Quinta,
Here,
Lake Elsinore,
Here.
Menifee,
Here.
Moreno Valley, Marietta, Marietta,
I see.
Norco,
Here.
Palm Desert,
Here.
Palm Springs,
Present.
Paris,
Here.
Rancho Mirage,
Here.
Riverside,
Here.
San Jacinto,
Here.
Temecula,
Here.
Wildemar,
Here.
Caltrans District 8,
Here.
and Commissioner Vinton from Marietta.
I am here. Can you hear me now?
Now
Yes,
we
I
can.
can. Thank you.
Okay.
And you look in the attendees and see if I'm missing anybody.
That's true. You called District 4. I'm here. Thank you.
District 4,
Gotcha.
District 2, District 5. We do have a quorum.
All right, very good. We'll straight into public comments. Do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda? And if you're on your iPad or computer, you would hit the raise hand button at the bottom, or if you're on the phone, you would hit *9.
Not seeing any hands raised.
All right, with that, any additions or revisions, Lisa? We're good?
No, sir.
All right. Under the consent calendar, we have items 5A through 5I. Anyone have any items they wish to pull from the consent calendar?
Move to approve, Vargas.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the complete consent calendar from Commissioner Vargas.
I didn't hear the second, I'm sorry.
Who was the second?
Second,
More. Second.
All right,
Okay, District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5, Banning, Beaumont,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Mesa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Aye.
Cathedral City,
Yes.
Coachella, Corona, Corona,
Sorry,
thank you.
unmute. Yes.
Yes.
Desert Hot Springs,
Aye.
Eastville,
Aye.
Hemet, Indian Wells,
Yes.
Indio,
Aye.
Parupa Valley,
Yes.
La Quinta,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
Menifee,
Aye.
Moreno Valley, Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
Aye.
Paris,
Aye.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula, Temecula,
Mike, can you hear us, sir?
Yes.
Wildemar,
Yes,
the item passes.
very good. And we'll go straight into our first action item, the approval of the Metrolink operating and capital subsidies for fiscal year 2021 or 2020, 2021. And go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. The purpose of this item is for the Commission to approve RCTC's portion of the overall Metrolink budget. Before I dive into the overall presentation, I want to acknowledge the work of our rail manager, Sheldon Peterson. He put together the staff report and this item, but he also has the next agenda item, which is why I'm taking this one for him. So let's go ahead and advance to the first slide, essentially. Although Metrolink's been in operation for 27 years, I think it's important to have a little bit of background. Metrolink's the brand name for the Southern California Regional Rail Authority. It's a joint powers agency comprising the 5 major transportation commissions in Southern California, and RCTC is one of them. RCTC's made a significant investment in rail. We're the only county other than LA that's served by 3 separate Metrolink lines. And other than Union Station in Los Angeles, our downtown Riverside station is the only one in the system that's served by all 3 of those lines. Speaking of stations, we're also the only county transportation commission that owns and operates all of our stations, of which there are 9. And attachment 1 in the staff report kind of details what the cost is of doing that. So in terms of the overall Metrolink budget, the current status is Metrolink passed a 3-month continuing type of resolution because of the pandemic, and they are looking to now approve a budget to carry them for the rest of the fiscal year. So this focuses on our portion of that heading in for the rest of the fiscal year. So let's go to the next slide. Just want to quickly get into some highlights in this past fiscal year that ended, fiscal year 20. Photo in the slide there you might see is of the Metrolink CEO, Stephanie Wiggins. She used to be an RCTC employee, and Metrolink's year started off on a very positive note. As I mentioned, it's the 27th year of its operation. A number of positive investments in terms of rehab of the fleet, ticketing systems were made. Things were very much on an uptick. The agency is going to receive all of its Tier 4 cleaner locomotives by the end of 2020. And ridership was growing. It was growing by about 3%. and then COVID hit. And since then, the immediate drop was 90%. And when you consider that for 3 months, the net annual drop of ridership from Metrolink is a net of about 22%. The next slide will give you a visual look to see what 90% is like. That's what 90% looks like, and it's been a significant hit. But to Metrolink's credit and leadership, they've really gone and responded. So let's go to the next slide. And I think Metrolink has responded to COVID in a very proactive and thoughtful way. As soon as ridership got that hit, service was reduced. And the focus now has been on core jobs, people who need the train to get to work, a lot of healthcare, law enforcement officials, that type of thing. And they've really tried to emphasize the whole idea that the trains are a safe place. Safety is now the big part of it, hand sanitizers, more cleaning, and an app that tells you how full the train might be. In terms of the service cuts, for Riverside County, we now only have 33 one-way trains a day rather than 40. Most of those reductions took place in midday or off-peak hours. And that's important because for long-range commuters here in Riverside and San Bernardino, as long as they have that job to go to, the commuter train provides a good alternative to them. So let's go to the next slide in terms of the goals and highlights for the upcoming fiscal year and what this budget will pay for. Essentially, Metrolink has developed a recovery plan, one that emphasizes safety first and will add trains back when demand essentially calls for it. A number of important contracts that were considered for a long time in terms of operation, track and signal improvements, those are now being implemented. And there's been some very creative marketing programs that are being launched. One is a 5-day pass, which you can only get through the phone app, and pushing the phone app is another thing that Metrolink's trying to do. Overall, the system is responding to COVID as much as possible. And in the same time, there's still some important capital programs that have to be dealt with in terms of positive train control, rehabbing the fleet, and receiving those locomotives. And this is a good opportunity to do that while ridership is essentially in a pause. So let's go to the next slide and talk about the finances. And RCTC, our proposed budget, or the budget we're looking to approve today for the next fiscal year, is $23.7 million. We pay for Metrolink through a combination of federal, state, and local funding. And in the past, most of it's been through state and local funding. The CARES Act, in this case, has put more federal money into the budget for this year. And that will help in terms of a pause, in terms of getting that recovery to it. But in terms of looking forward, we might have to come to you in future board meetings regarding adjustments, regarding the source of funding for this. And overall, to do that, I just want to express our appreciation to our commission representatives on the Metrolink board. Those are Commissioners Kotyuk, Spiegel, Berkson, and Hewitt. This is a very challenging time to be involved in public transit, and transit systems are going to have to evolve and advance, and I think Metrolink's well positioned to do that. So with that, I would like to end my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions, and I know Sheldon's also available to help if I need that. So thank you for your time.
Very good. Thank you for the presentation. Commissioners, comments, questions?
Move approval.
Motion by Indian Wells.
Second by,
Oh, I got a second from La Quinta there. Very good. Any public comment on this item? Not seeing any hands raised. All right, we can go ahead and call the roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2, District 3.
Yes. Sorry, you
Thank
also.
you. I got you. Thank you. District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Banning, Beaumont,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Aye.
Cathedral City,
Yes.
Coachella,
Yes.
Corona,
Aye.
Desert Hot Springs,
Aye.
Eastville,
Aye.
Emmett,
Yes.
Indian Wells,
Yes.
Indio,
Aye.
Parupa Valley,
Yes.
La Quinta,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley, Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
Aye.
Paris,
Aye.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemar.
Yes.
The item passes.
Very good. That brings us to item number 7, the California High-Speed Rail to Los Angeles to Anaheim project. Sheldon, go right ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Chair and members of the Commission. I'm Sheldon Peterson, the rail manager, here once again to talk about my favorite subject, trains. First off, let me thank John for a great Metrolink presentation and not making me have to do a two for this morning. It is really appreciated. Today, I'll be providing an update on the high-speed rail project and how the environmental scoping for the LA to Anaheim corridor might be impacting our region. No, the high-speed rail project means different things to different people, but it's one of those projects you just have to look at one piece at a time. I think in concept, it's a great idea and proven around the world, but the challenge is how do we make it happen locally and at what cost? Before I move on the slide, I want everyone to check out the cool new train picture that they've been using, that they've updated to show off the high-speed rail potential. Go to the next slide, please. So the statewide high-speed rail program is broken up into multiple phases. So the original phase 1 was from the Bay Area to Los Angeles or Anaheim, with a promise of 3-hour or less service with high frequencies with one train in each direction every 20 minutes. The initial priority was given to the Central Valley with the thought that it would be less developed than congested urban environments, and service would be able to attain higher train speeds closer to the target of 220 miles per hour. Initially, the service was first to connect to Los Angeles from the Central Valley, but several years ago, the plan was switched and headed to San Francisco first, much to our dismay locally. Initial funding from Prop 1A and the 2009 federal stimulus really set the project in motion with key targets to be met using the existing funds. And that project's continued, unfortunately, with no major funding sources since then. There's been some cap and trade, but no big funding projects have materialized for quite a while. The environmental studies have started since 2007 for the Southern California project sections and continue to this day. When you look at a phase 2, some of you may recall we were looking at a LA to San Diego corridor through the Inland Empire. We had a big choice to make on whether it would go down the I-15 through Corona or through Riverside over to the I-215. Just want to give you a heads up. That decision hasn't been formally made, but this project has been kicked out further into the future with no real timeline in place, probably 30 plus years away. Staff will continue to watch it and provide updates, but just to let you know where that part of the project is set up. The next slide, maybe please. So the focus of today's section is the LA to Anaheim corridor, which is approximately 30 miles long. It is the preferred alignment to go along the BNSF Railways corridor from LA to Fullerton, and then OCTA owns the corridor, the remaining 5 miles down to Anaheim. Since 2007, when the project was first proposed, there's significant concerns about the project and has been reshaped several times, and we'll kind of walk through some of those. One of the key factors to keep in mind that has changed some of those concerns has been issues from the residents and businesses and local agencies. So on this corridor, there's a lot of community outreach, or at least has been in the past. One of the key factors to recognize is this corridor now through a dense urban environment. Those trains will probably be going at 79 miles an hour, not the anticipated 200 miles an hour of a full high-speed system. The commission is highly interested in this corridor, primarily because back in 1992, we purchased the passenger rail track rights from the BNSF to allow for Metrolink service. And that's one of the key elements, is to track that with the understanding that RCTC actually owns all the non-Amtrak passenger rail rights on this corridor. So high-speed rail operating in this corridor would be potentially in conflict with that agreement. Next slide. As you know, I like pictures in train stations, so I figured I'd share a couple of them. The one on the left is LA Union Station, the conceptual plan of what it would look like once transitioned into more of a high-speed rail station. They have a Link Union Station project that has run-through tracks to make the whole system more efficient, and upgrades throughout the downtown area there. The station on the right is actually the first high-speed rail station in the state, known as Arctic in Anaheim. It's truly a magnificent structure, as you can see, with a lot of investments locally. So I'm sure that's a big priority and motivation for them to continue this high-speed rail corridor. Next slide. So the point at hand is on August 25th, the High-Speed Rail Authority released a notice of preparation and notice of intent to recirculate the original 2000 environmental documents with 2 new components. These components are on the maps on the right, with a Colton intermodal freight facility and a Barstow Lenwood staging tracks for the BNSF freight. These are proposed to relieve the freight congestion on the LA to Fullerton corridor to allow for more passenger service. Now, we all have a lot of respect for BNSF. They do a great job in the region, and we realize they are tough negotiators. So these elements showed up late in the game as part of the discussion and are now being proposed as part of the project. So the scoping comment period is out and released with the comments due September 24th. For you and anyone in your community is interested, there are 2 virtual open house meetings, one on September 10th and one on September 12th. Next slide. If you could please humor me as we kind of walk through what has happened so far on this corridor and where we got to this position where there's improvements in the Inland Empire. Back in 2007, High-Speed Rail was ambitious and proposed the map that's attached. They were thinking of 2 dedicated high-speed rail trains, tracks, and then 4 tracks adjacent to that that would hold Amtrak, Metrolink, and BNSF. On the map, you could also see that it's color-coded with areas in blue shown as elevated track structures. Green would be at grade, purple in a trench, and the original proposal actually had a bored tunnel going through the community of Anaheim. A lot of the communities along the way, the gateway cities of Pico Rivera, Montebello, Santa Fe Springs, Norwalk, all those had significant challenges with these proposals and provided a lot of community feedback to get them changed. Next slide. So even going from that first proposal of 6 tracks, around 2010, they came up with a proposal to cut it down to 5 tracks. As you can see on the top, they have 3 tracks at grade and 2 tracks isolated on an elevated structure. And there are potential impacts from that structure, both for the communities and people in the area. The other option was a configuration of 3 tracks shared by passenger and freight, and then the 2 high-speed rail tracks off to the side, electrified and then separated with a crash wall. They need all this structure to be able to go to the higher speeds. Go to the next slide. So the current proposal even downgraded that 5-track proposal down to a 4-track proposal. So on the left, on the top, you can see there's 3 passenger and freight shared tracks, which is the current proposal, LA to Fullerton. Then they would add an additional track to bring it up to 4 tracks, and 2 would be dedicated for passenger and 2 would be dedicated for freight. And then on the Anaheim corridor, instead of boring a tunnel or doing anything too extreme, They've scaled back the project just to electrify the 2 existing tracks and have it shared for passenger and freight corridor down to Anaheim. So of course, all these changes and restrictions on the freight capacity led to the development of mitigations for the freight service in the Inland Empire, unfortunately without any discussion to those of us actually in the Inland Empire. Next slide. So from various sources, we developed a proposed service plan. We're still waiting to get the official train counts out of the environmental process, but here's kind of what we understand to be today. So as John mentioned, the service has been cut due to COVID, but after the COVID restrictions are lifted, on the corridor from LA to Fullerton, there on the left on the chart, it shows a restored schedule of 68 trains total. Of that, 26 are the Amtrak or LoSan service from San Diego up to LA. 29 are the Orange County Metrolink service, and 13 are the 91 Paris Valley Line service out of Riverside and Paris. So per the existing shared use agreement, and there's been substantial public investment to actually build out a triple track section from LA to Fullerton. It's taken about a decade and over $100 million of state funding to build this 3rd track. And because of that, we're allowed per the agreements to take up to 84 passenger trains on this corridor with no further improvements. That shows the breakdown on that. And then going forward through some modeling and other projections, it looks like the service plan for the 2040 railroad would have 258 trains on that corridor. Of those, it's proposed for 96 to be high-speed rail trains. There's also significant growth to Metrolink and some growth on Amtrak. Doing just some quick math, it looks like the passenger train growth on that corridor would go up to 279%. If you had a full service day from 4 in the morning to 12 midnight or 20 hours, that just basically maths out to 1 train every 5 minutes all day long. So it is an extensive, aggressive schedule proposed for this corridor. In addition, it looks like there's additional freight service that would grow with a 56% increase projected over that time. And also there's a diversion of freight trains off this corridor that's going to be consumed with passenger service. So there'll be more trains headed from Fullerton to Riverside and to San Bernardino on our corridor. Next slide. So that leads us to the project challenges. What does this project do in our region? Obviously, with the increased truck and freight rail traffic in our region, we'll see the delays that we already experience, both for crossings and other locations, but it also looks like there'll be a minimum relocation of 10 daily freight trains out to Riverside and Colton. So if you project they carry 250 to 300 containers each, that's up to 3,000 daily new trucks on our roads that would impact our communities. So they go through the State Route 60 through Rubidoux, the Rupa Valley would see impacts, the I-10, the I-215, and all the access roads from that Colton facility. Along that, we'll also get increased regional noise and air quality impacts. And next slide. And this slide to me is really telling as far as the way the map goes. It shows the LA to Anaheim corridor off to the side, and then it shows really how far away the Inland Empire is from the benefits of that high-speed rail system. So the Colton component is out in our region, and the Barstow-Lenwood component is way up north off the 15 in San Bernardino. So we kind of see this as a social justice issue as far as all the benefits going to one region and the other region seeing most of the impacts. We also identify there's limited passenger rail benefits without additional investments for our region. There's the conflicts I mentioned on the shared use agreement as far as passenger rail service, and also the ability to discuss with us details of the project. We also identify that there's unrealized benefits for our county and also San Bernardino, who we've been working closely with. And perhaps the most troubling in my mind is that this freight yard will happen regardless of whether or not the LA to Anaheim high-speed rail service gets implemented or there's 4th track gets built. So potentially after it's environmentally cleared, there's nothing to stop the railroad from proceeding at its own expense to go ahead and build this facility. And given the uncertainty with high-speed rail, even with new reports in the LA Times over the weekend, that just kind of makes me concerned that we'll get these impacts and there'll be no benefit. Next slide. So the next steps, we're requesting authority for the commission chair executive director to submit official scoping comments to voice our concerns on this project. We'll continually work closely with San Bernardino and the HighSpeed Rail Authority to address concerns, look for potential mitigation efforts, and monitor project development. We'll continue to look to see if anything happens on the phase 2 development, and then we'll provide additional commission updates as we go forward. Next slide, please. So basically, as we wrap this up, just want to share with you the project website. Like I mentioned, there's some virtual public meetings happening this week. You can check this link and share it with your teams to get people to identify that this is actually happening. And then I'd be happy to answer any questions as best I can on this project. So I appreciate your time, and thank you for letting me walk through all the details. Open it up.
Sheldon, thank you for a great presentation, and your comments about the impact to our area versus the benefit are duly noted, and thank you for bringing that forward. And it is difficult to see how we can get all the negative impacts of that increased freight traffic there, and I speak for that when I referring to all the impacts I see on the air district side of that. So it's a very difficult bit of math for the Inland Empire to have to take that. All right, comments and questions from the rest of my colleagues. All right, not seeing anyone raise their hand.
I'm trying to figure out how to raise my hand, but I can't do it. Go ahead,
Go
Dina.
ahead, Supervisor or Councilmember Speak.
I just, it's very disappointing to hear this at the same time when the state is literally preventing us from building, lanes and putting every obstacle impossible to stop commuters and then encouraging, alternative transportation, including rail, but this not happening. And so I wanted to ask, and I know it's not in our plan for light rail to be, to go down the 15, and we've talked about it in general, and it's primarily a funding and timing issue. But I wanted to know at the state level, Sheldon, if you're hearing anything that they're going to be putting more money into other types of rail, not just to fund some of these things, since we're not going to be funding transportation at the level that we all need.
Yeah, the state, through cap and trade and some other funding sources, have done a call for project called the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program, and they've released about over $5 billion in rail projects and transit projects over the past 5 or 6 years. So there's a funding source looking at varied projects. They've funded some bus projects or electrification. So they have done a number of things. I think our challenge is to make sure that we can get our projects competitive for some of those funding efforts and really kind of line up the right projects to compete on those. So there is some funding out there, but with COVID in the economy, some of that could be reduced for a while, but hopefully we'll come back strong eventually.
I mean, $5 million is, frankly, like nickels compared to what we need.
Yeah, I apologize. Did I say million? I meant billion. So it's a little bit better, but still,
okay.
In the scheme of things, yeah, it's
maybe $1 versus a nickel, but yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, there's a huge investment need, and everybody is coming up with larger, grandiose projects across the state. So I know San Diego released a huge transportation plan in the several billions of dollars as well. So there's a lot of people coming up with very competitive projects.
I move adoption of the staff recommendation.
I have a motion. So Supervisor Perez has his hand raised. Supervisor, go ahead.
I'll second the motion. That's fine. I just want to reinforce what you said, Chairman. You're correct. I'd like to see if RCTC, our folks, maybe check in with AQMD, South Coast Air Quality Management District, to have further discussion on this front, especially when it comes to social justice, environmental justice, specific to air quality. Ultimately, we're going to be impacted in Riverside County as a whole. And then obviously it'll trickle into the Coachella Valley as it has been. And so I want to make sure we take care of that as possible. And and have that collaboration, that communication between us and AQMD to just figure out what our arguments are, have some data behind it, and make sure we get our fair share. Thank you, and I'll second the motion.
Very good. Any other comments on this item? Do you have any public comments on this item? I'm not seeing anyone with their hand raised. If you are on the public side, if you would hit the raise hand button, or if you're on the phone, *9. Not seeing any. I have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and call the roll.
District 1? District 1?
He had to sign up. He had to sign off, Lisa.
Thank you. District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
Banning? Banning?
Not in District 5. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Beaumont?
Yes.
Blythe?
Yes.
Calamasa?
Yes.
Canyon Lake?
Yes.
Cathedral City?
Yes.
Coachella?
Yes.
Corona?
Aye.
Desert Hot Springs?
Aye.
Eastville?
Aye.
Hemet?
Yes.
Indian Wells?
Yes.
Indio?
Aye.
Rupa Valley?
Yes.
La Quinta?
Yes.
Lake Elsinore?
Aye.
Menifee?
Yes.
Moreno Valley? Marietta?
Yes.
Norco?
Yes.
Palm Desert?
Yes.
Palm Springs?
Aye.
Paris?
Aye.
Rancho Mirage?
Yes.
Riverside?
Yes.
San Jacinto?
Yes.
Temecula? Temecula? Wildemar?
Yes.
The item passes.
Very good. We do not have any items that were pulled from the consent calendar. I'm going to go ahead and call on Ann Mayer for her executive update report and update on where we're at with RCA. Ann, take it away.
Okay, good morning, commissioners. Thank you very much. This earlier today, the executive committee had discussion related to the due diligence process related to RCA's request the RCTC consider being the managing agency for implementation of the Western Riverside County Multi-Species Habitat Conservation Plan. So in that conversation, I reviewed the status of our due diligence at this point, which has been an analysis of possible implementation mechanisms, financial issues, legal liability issues, staffing and organization. So I did provide that update there. At this point, we're not seeing any, from a staff perspective, we're not seeing any fatal flaws associated with becoming the managing agency. However, there is still a significant amount of due diligence that needs to be undertaken. So we will continue to do that. Some of the areas of conversation also included a conversation not about the nuts and bolts of implementing a plan and what it would mean to the organization, but more along the lines of policy in terms of what does the MSHCP mean to RCTC in terms of our projects and programs, the investment that we've made into it. So we are making progress with the due diligence. It will continue. And the RCA full board is going to be having a conversation about it at their meeting next week. So we are still in the due diligence process, and we'll continue to be in that process for several more weeks. And I'll continue to keep you updated and provide a more detailed summary next month.
Very good. Any other questions on that or commissioner comments? I know we've been hearing about a lot of that at the executive committee meeting, but just want to make sure anyone had any questions of this meeting, go ahead and ask them. Not seeing any hands raised. All right, any other commissioner comments or overall comments for the meeting? Not seeing any. We'll go ahead and go into our closed session. Just hold on a second here while we